is Shannon Amidon, and I am the founder and director of the Verdancy Project. And before we formally begin, I want to recognize and acknowledge that we are located on the traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Clackamas, Tualatin, Kulapoya, Molalla, and bands of the Chinook and Confederate tribes of the Grand Ronde. We're on this land because of the forced removal of its traditional people by colonists and settlers, and as guests, we recognize the strong and diverse Native communities in our region today, tribes both local and distant. We'd like to thank the original caretakers and offer respect and gratitude for the stewardship of these lands. We recognize that we are benefiting from this beautiful land and that we have a responsibility to steward and honor it. And as I kind of talking about the lands, we are on a 4.5 acre piece of land in Oregon, and we're about 30 minutes east of Portland. And even though we're kind of in a rural area, what's really nice is we're also about 10 minutes away from anything you could need, and grocery stores and gas stations and stuff. So we kind of have the best of both worlds, which is really nice. And so when residents come, they could kind of feel you know, that they're remote and away from all of that, but they also can access anything that they need. We're also maybe just about 5 minutes away from Oxbow Park, which is a 1,000-acre beautiful park to hike and walk in on the Sandy River. So that's really nice for residents to be able to access that as well. And there's just lots of wonderful farms around and other things. Waterfall Alley, which is like 8 waterfalls like within like 20 minutes. So there's lots of wonderful things around the area as well. Thank you for being here today, and hopefully, you know, some people will be able to enjoy the recording of this as well and ask questions that way. I'm going to start out by telling you a little bit about the Verdancy Project and our residency, and then I'm going to turn it over to one of our previous 2-time residents, Joellen Sweeney, for her to talk about her experience here, and then we'll just open it up for questions if there are any. Like I mentioned, we are in Troutdale, Oregon, and the residency and the Verdancy Project has been going on for about 2 years now. And the Verdancy Project is kind of a multifaceted endeavor. The residency program is a huge part of it, but we also offer workshops, have events and talks. We do community art projects and just anything like that that is centered around the land. So the land is a very important aspect of this program, and that's why it's not just a residency program. That's why we've called it a project, because I want to be open to exploring other things that come up and other things that people want to share and experiences. We have had photographers come out here to do photo shoots, so it's a really special place. We have a creek, we have Beaver Creek, we have a woodlands and a little apiary, and all different kind of a constellation of spaces on the property. We also have a really awesome tree house that a lot of residents seem to really like. Like I mentioned, this is about 2 years old. Last year, we kind of had our soft launch and we had 6 residents. And then this year we had 20 residents. So it's grown, which has been wonderful, and residents from all over the US and in Canada. And what we really are looking for is residents who have a strong connection to nature and or ecology and the sciences. It doesn't have to be all 3, it could be one of those. And we really, when we're looking at the applicants, we're really looking for people whose connection goes beyond just being inspired by nature. Being inspired by nature is amazing, and I think most artists are, but we really are looking for people who take it a step further, whether that's through their practice or their materials, their subject matter, anything like that. So we've had residents who are also scientists, residents who are interested in like natural wildcraft, making pigments with earth pigments and materials. We had one of our residents who made ink out of algae in our creek, things like that. But we're also open, you know, we also want to be open to artists who are moving in the direction of a more earth-centered practice, who are interested in learning more about these connections and bringing that and incorporating that into their work. So maybe their work right now doesn't necessarily reflect that, but they're really interested in learning more and coming here and experimenting, teaching themselves how to use pigments or things like that. So I want people to understand it doesn't just, your current practice doesn't necessarily have to focus on that, but even speaking about that in the application, how, you know, you want to learn more and things like that. So that's really what we're looking for in our residents. And it's been really wonderful because we've had a variety of residents. Myself, I'm a professional visual artist, and we have lots of visual artists, but we also have had writers and musicians and actors, and it's been really wonderful to have this multidisciplinary aspect to the residency as well, because I think there are so many different disciplines who can benefit from a residency like this. And let me see what I'll go over real quick. The residency is 1 to 2 weeks, and one of the reasons that is because I also want to have the residency be accessible for artists who are caretakers, parents, or working. A lot of residency programs are month-long or longer programs. I myself have been on residencies all over the world, in Iceland and Costa Rica and Peru, and they're all wonderful. But the reality is, after I had my daughter, those opportunities went away significantly because a lot of programs want you to be there for at least a month. And that's just not something that I can do or am willing to do, to leave my family for a month. So it was really important for me to have this opportunity for other artists who can't get away for a month as well. And so that's why it's 1 to 2 week option. And we also have the option to stay on the land, or for local artists or artists who want a more traditional setting, there's Airbnbs in the area and different things like that. We've had people stay with friends, we've had people stay in Airbnbs, and we've had people stay on the property as well. The access is 24-hour access. Each resident has their own private studio. And like I mentioned, there are a variety of spaces on the property where people can work. We encourage any kind of earthworks. There's lots of people who have done fun things on the property in nature. We had an artist who came in, we have a lot of moss growing on our trees, and she removed moss strategically to make faces or stripes or patterns on the trees, which was really fun. We had an artist come and make mud sculptures and faces and things like that. So that's another fun part of the residency, is to see how people engage. And I think one of the most important aspects of the residency is that we do not put any expectations on the artist to produce. Again, being an artist myself, I just get so tired of this cycle of producing, making, having a product, having something to show. There's not enough time just to really be present and plant seeds, gestate ideas, and be present and just turn off all of that. So that was a very important aspect when I started this residency, was to convey that to the artist. Now, we've had lots of artists come and bust out huge bodies of work, and that's fantastic, but it's not we don't expect that. It's not an expectation. A lot of residencies, you have to apply with a project. We don't ask that you apply with the project. We do ask for maybe what you're going to focus on, just so we have an idea. Even if you say, I'd like to write and read every day, just something to kind of give us an idea that it's not just kind of coming for a vacation, but you are bettering your practice in some way. But it doesn't have to be a way that's based on productivity and output. So it's interesting when I kind of try to convey this to the artists. Some of them are kind of shocked, and it takes them a couple of days to actually really get into that. But that's the beauty of it. And a lot of times they come to the residency with these ideas of what they're going to do, but once they get here, they respond to the land and the space, and they completely change course, which is also really awesome. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. These are kind of just the general overview of this space in the program. Some of the community projects we do is like a seed swap that we're doing now. We did a buried book projects, and we're always open to other people proposing partnerships and projects with us. And again, it's all kind of centered on the land and nature. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce our guest and our two-time resident, Joellen, which is really awesome. I didn't know Joellen before she applied to the residency last year, and she's been a really important part of it. And I'm excited to have her share her experience with you, and then we'll open it up for questions. So Joellen Sweeney is an actor, director, and teaching artist from Portland, Oregon. Recent regional credits include work with the Seattle Shakespeare Company, Artist Repertory Theater, Anonymous Theater, Shaking the Tree Theater, Portland Experimental Theater Ensemble, and the Northwest Children's Theater. She's also the co-founder of Bedrock Theater, which I got to meet those other members as well, which is wonderful. A performance collective that combines storytelling, live music, hiking in parks and wilderness areas. Joellen earned her master's in fine arts in acting from the University of Washington's Professional Actor Training Program. She holds degrees in theater and Spanish from Willamette University, where she graduated summa cum laude. She is also alumna of the Third Rail Repertory Theater Mentorship Program and the Shakespeare and Company month-long intensive. So welcome, Joellen. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate you sharing your experience.
Thank you. I feel honored to get to do it. Genuinely, I really love talking about the Verdancy Project because my experience there has been so positive and so formative in these last 2 years. As Shannon said, I've done the residency twice. I did it once in September of 2021, and then just this past month in September 2022. And both times were very rich experiences, and like each time a little bit different. The first time I came by myself, not in the context of my theater company. And then the second time I brought my colleagues from Bedrock Theater to be with me. And I think maybe a little context that might help is that my company, Bedrock Theater, makes storytelling performances and shows and concerts that are deeply embedded in the landscape around them. We perform in nature and we bring audiences out to a landscape, and then we tell them a story and sing them songs that are connected to that space. It's really designed to bring audience into playful, direct communication with their environment. And so we like to cultivate that kind of communication in ourselves and be out in nature and find out what kind of story is coming from that landscape. And then that's what we tell. So I was really excited when I heard about the Verdancy Project because I thought it was just a dreamy overlap of missions that we had that felt like a really beautiful place to be. And the first time I came out, I used it as an opportunity to kind of do that artistic research. So I got there. I immediately, as Shannon said, was in this productivity mindset of go, go, go. I'm going to get all this stuff done. And being there taught me to slow down, to really listen, to become a little bit more spacious and expansive in my thinking about what kind of work I wanted to do, what I could learn by deeply listening to that land. Yeah, I've really, really loved it. Then the second time, as I said, my company members from Bedrock came out and we had a more structured rehearsal schedule. We staged some music in the stream. That was very fun. We rehearsed a bunch of songs. We developed some new material. We figured out how to do percussion using the gravel in the field house. So these are the kinds of things that come from being at the Verdancy Project and experimenting with your work there. I would say I made notes. I'm gonna look at them. Some of the stuff that I really, really love, the gift of time. Just having that time set aside to be in this space, to be working on my work was so incredibly fruitful and not something that I am able to make time for unless I've set aside the residency space. So I was very grateful for the time. There's that gift of spaciousness, both the space itself, which is expansive at 4.5 acres, and you have all these different buildings that you can work in. Not only the resident studio, which is really lovely and has all this natural light, feels great to be in, but there's a field house that has a gravel floor and is sort of covered but feels like a very different environment. You've got a tree house, which is truly amazing. It's like a fairy tale in there. And then there are all these little nooks and crannies. There's a little grove with a maple tree in the middle of it. There's the stream bed, all these places that you can find that you can make work. So I found myself, going to different sites, meditating on them for 30 to 45 minutes to an hour, and then sometimes making things, which took forms that surprised me, right? Being out there kind of made my practice feel more expansive. I expected to go out and do a lot of writing or generating spoken text because as an actor, that is generally the way that I work. And I ended up doing some earthwork style installations, a lot of drawing, a lot of composing music is what came out of it. And I was excited that it was sort of, it was pulling apart the way I saw myself as an artist and giving me more ways into approaching my artistic research, which is that question of how do we bring ourselves closer to environment? How do we become more responsive to the land that we're in and more caring for it? What else? I love that it's brought me into this network of artists with shared values. Getting to meet Shannon has been extremely cool and to learn about her practice, but also through the workshops and through following the work of other residents, I've become aware of all these incredible people who are working on similar or adjacent artistic research that really kind of fires me up. So I love being connected to the Verdancy Project for that reason, and staying attuned to who is there at any given time. I feel like I learn things by following the residents on Instagram and all that good stuff. And then the last thing I want to say, it was highly generative. Once I let go of trying to be productive, once I let go of my plan, then I actually came up with a ton of material. Like, I've walked away with things that have shown up in other pieces that I've done, both when I was finishing my last year of grad school, but also in shows that I've done since. The material that came out of the Verdancy Project has been reiterated and has started to bloom. And then the second time I came out, material from the first time I was there was like ready to emerge. So that thing of planting the seeds is really true. And it is very true that, you know, Shannon is around and you can chat and like, will ask about the work, which is something that I love and felt very affirming that you would come and ask me about my work. But also I never felt pressured to be doing anything specific or have to prove anything. And that was ultimately so freeing. That in a way made me more productive and generative than if I had forced myself into some box. Yeah. Oh, the last thing I'll say, one of my favorite tiny things about the Verdancy Project is that there are a bunch of frogs that live in a little pond. Did you know I was going to say this? I'm very into the frogs. There's this pond with frogs in the stream, and I invented a game where in the mornings when I would go down there to meditate before I would journal, I would creep up on the frogs and try to sit down without them getting wise and jumping away. And it's things like that, the opportunity to be out there and to be outdoors in a playful way as an adult, which is something that I don't generally have the time or the space or give myself permission to do. I felt like that experience exemplifies what is so special about the Verdancy Project to me, that I can be there and truly play. So yeah, I want everyone to do it. I think it's the coolest.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me, and it's been wonderful having you as a resident as well. Yeah, so a couple things that you said that I wanted to touch on really quick, then we'll go to questions, is as you mentioned, I really view this as a space for people to plant seeds that will come to fruition later, maybe months, maybe years. But I really love that idea of like generating and gestating ideas here, and things that you wouldn't typically have the space or the solitude to do that in. One of the things I didn't mention, you know, just transparency is very important to us. And this is a private land, private resident. My family and I live here. So my husband, Bob, and my 10-year-old daughter, Sabine, and we're all involved in the residency. And one of the things that's important to me is we're not a big nonprofit organization. It's just our family doing this because we have this amazing land that we want to share with people. And we have these values and this mission. So I really think of it as something that's more personal and close for people, and you do get personalized attention, and we will come out and say hi to you, but we'll also totally leave you alone. Like, I really try to read the residents and what they need and desire for their residency stay. And if they want to be more social and chat and hang out, we're up for that. If they want to be completely left alone, we're fine with that too. Another thing is we're pretty fine with dogs coming. We have a dog ourselves, and like our last resident had a little dog and she brought that. And also in terms of like children, family, we are open to that on a case-by-case basis. If this is something, you know, again, being accessible to parent artists is also very important to me. So if that's something that you're thinking about, let's talk about it. Like, email us and, you know, we could work something out. We have a lot of resources in the area as well, but we really want to be accessible to a variety of artists and support that. And we can, because we're a smaller, I don't even like the word organization, like project, right? So yeah, we have kind of these things, and we're always, the Verdancy Project is like it's always growing and evolving and responding to the people who are part of this project. And again, one of the things you mentioned, Joellen, is the connection to other artists. So we try to build like a strong alumni network, because a lot of the artists that participate all have common interests and goals and desires. And so we've really connected some really wonderful people who have been working together, who are inspired by each other. And that's really satisfying, as well as to grow this little community of like-minded artists from all over to be friends and share knowledge. You know, if someone's here, like we had a resident who was trying to make pigments and having a really hard time, but I knew that, you know, a previous resident was doing that and doing it well. So I connected with them and you know, they really helped each other out virtually, like while one resident was here and the other one was back home in Pittsburgh. So that kind of thing is really important to me, as well as having that connection with different artists. So
Oh,
I think that's,
I
yeah.
thought of one more tiny thing, which is there's a library in
Oh.
the studio of just an incredible resource of books on creativity, books on nature, field guides. There are zines and things that have been contributed by previous residents, which is really cool. So you're feeling like you're in conversation with the artists who have been there. And I found that resource to be one of my favorite things, because in the morning I could come, I would pick out a book, I would carry it with me down to the pond, play the frogs game, have like a sit for 20 minutes, journal, and then read for a while. And that was like the first 2 hours of the day, you know, and like in its own way, very productive without being like productive. So I just want to mention the library because it's such a cool thing.
Thank you. Yes, I forgot about that. So we have over 120 different books, everything from technique in terms of painting, drawing, fiber art, sculpture. So a lot of process and technique books, but we also have lots of creativity books, huge selection of like nature books and field guides, poetry, even all different types of things. I'm a huge book nerd, and it gives me an excuse to keep buying books.
Nice.
They just add them to the library, right? Oh, it's
Yeah.
just for Verdancy Project, even though, you know, so yes, that's a really wonderful. And we do have a whole list on our website of all the other materials and tools. That's one thing also that I try to do maybe a little bit differently than other residencies, is I like to be able to provide residents with materials. So we have paper making supplies, pigment and ink making supplies, wood burning supplies, a variety of binoculars and waders and things to explore. So there's lots of stuff for the residents have access to use as well, to like kind of check out while they're here. So thank you so much, Joellen. I appreciate it. You know, it's always wonderful having you. And does anyone have any questions? I'm gonna open it up now to questions, comments, thoughts. Maybe.
I have a question. I like going from 6 residents to having 20 the next year. I was wondering what the application and like selection process is like past submitting the form.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year we're probably actually going to be accepting a few less residents, because I found that 20 was just a lot for me to handle. Basically, there was someone here every week from March till the end of October, and that's a lot. It's hard because we want to try and accommodate as many artists as possible, but it's also my family home. So the process is we have, you know, people apply, and last year we had about 28 applicants. So it gives you an idea of the ratio to the acceptance to policy, you know, numbers. So 28 applicants, we were able to accept 20 of them. We have a small jury of community members and former alumni and myself who go over the applicants, and we kind of have a rubric we look at in terms of kind of scoring, so it's fair across the board. In terms of we look at their artwork, but also kind of their statement in terms of their connection to their practice and the land, and those things are kind of scored by the different people, and then we come together. And also a factor can be sometimes when they want to be here. We also offer a couple of scholarships. At this time, we only can offer 2 because basically it's just our family offering the scholarships. And hopefully, you know, we're working on getting additional funding, and we have people who have donated, and it contributes to the scholarship fund. And, you know, we definitely like to grow that. But we also have a large number of people applying for the scholarship. So although we only have 2, we usually get, you know, probably 8 to 10 people applying for them. So those numbers are a little bit different than the application to acceptance numbers. So, and then what we do is, so after we pick the people that we would like to invite, I reach out to them in terms of if they're still interested in participating. we work out the schedule. I think the hardest part is working out the schedule. That was very challenging this year with 20 different artists, kind of plugging them in and trying to accommodate people's preferences. But I think we got it down. It just takes a lot of scheduling stuff. So, and then we have contracts for the residents to sign. They submit their payments, and then just kind of a week before they start, I reach out to them we have a residency handbook, kind of set up a little orientation for them when they get here. Some residents are local, and if they want to come and tour the property beforehand, that's also possible as well. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and I thought of one more while you were talking.
Sure.
Along the same lines, do you have an estimated timeline of when you would anticipate people hearing back after the application period closes?
Yes, I'm really hoping, my goal is to by mid-December, because I know everyone has to plan, and we also like to plan and get it done, and I want to try and get it done before the holidays for myself. And so, the applications close on the 23rd. I, gather all the material. I have to put everything into spreadsheets and make it accessible to the jury members. And then I give them a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, to go over everything. And then what I do is I try to kind of create a loose schedule. So when I do accept people, I could kind of propose a dates that they could come out or not. So I would say my goal is by mid-December.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else have any questions?
I guess I have a question.
Yeah.
So as a person who lives in Portland, thinking about, and I'm an opera singer, so I do mostly performances and, inviting audiences into spaces. How does it work to have an event in your space? Is that ever part of the residency? I don't know, I'm interested.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. It's something I did not touch on. We do offer the residents an opportunity to do either an open house, a talk, or an event. If they want to do that, we make it, we will support, and that is definitely optional. We don't want people to ever feel obligated, because that's not part of the expectations. But it's also actually a really awesome thing. We had an artist give a talk a couple of weeks ago about place-based artwork and stuff. So yes, we are definitely open to that. So there is a little bit of a caveat in terms of we do have limited parking. So we could fit about 12, maybe 15 cars on the property and the outside of the property. So that is something, we always encourage carpooling. But yes, if you wanted to do culminate your experience with the performance. And the other thing is, it doesn't have to be during your residency time. It can be a few weeks after, as long as we communicate. The most important thing to me is communicating, so we're on the same page of what's going to happen and when and how we could best support you.
Yeah.
And so there is, I will say, depending on how ambitious this event is, we down the street from us is kind of not down the street, about 5 minutes away is a kind of a strip mall, but it's most of the businesses are vacant. So it's a big parking lot. So there is an option for people to park and be shuttled in, as well. But that would be a cost that would probably be incurred by the artist or whoever's, but we can fit about 15 cars. So yeah, we love doing things like that. So anything like that, anything to engage people, show them the space, get them, in this mindset of the space is definitely welcome.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else before we wrap up? This has went a lot faster than I expected. I mean, we have a lot. So we had 20 people sign up. So I appreciate the 3 of you that came. We are going to throw this recording up for the people who couldn't make it. I know it's kind of, Saturdays are busy, but I really wanted to offer this for people who had questions that maybe the site didn't answer, or get a more in-depth look at the project and meet me, who is, the person who you're going to be working with, and a previous resident who will also be back next year. We do offer for our resident alumni, if they want to return, we do offer a discount for them to return. We try to really build this strong community of creatives and people who are part of this kind of Verdancy Project family. So, and oh, thank you. Yes. And let me throw a couple of, just for anybody, here, I thought I had a few links. Maybe I don't have the links anymore. Basically, our website has all the information and the application is due by midnight on October 23rd. So if there's anything else that comes up or if anybody wants to have any extra questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Maddie, if you ever wanted just to come out and look at the space, you know, you're more than welcome to do that. I know it's a lot of people like to do that just to kind of get an idea of what they might work on or you know, it's hard. It's really hard to convey this through pictures. So in video, I really try, but you know, it's much better in person, I promise. Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you again. And I hope you all consider applying.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.